Hello, welcome to another impromptu video around things to try in Bing Chat. So in the process of getting Bing Chat to create stories for me about Pink Mouse Dave and the philosopher, I suddenly hit on an idea which I'm assuming other people have tried, which is to get it to write an imaginary conversation between two parties. In this case, I want it to write a conversation between two contemporaneous philosophers. I've tried this a few times now, although I've only tried it once with this particular phrasing. In previous experiments, I tried it with particular eras of philosophy, or I also tried expanding on the whole library scenario of the previous video, where I added some extra parties, if you like, into the mix, asked it to pick an 18th century philosopher and set it at a certain library. And it was interesting how it sort of created this alternative universe around the story in order to make it feasible, if you like, by creating a situation where the philosopher in question had done a pact with the devil. Although what was funny is, as it was going through that process, it stopped the story and erased all mentions of a pact with this particular philosopher and the devil. So I saw it quickly go up on the screen and then it reversed it. So I didn't bother capturing it because it had reversed all the stuff where it got quite interested and carried on with the premise. So after that, I decided to just give this a go. And what I've found the fun with this and stuff you can try is just seeing what it throws up. I won't be necessarily asking it to continue the story, because as you saw in my previous episode with a lot of the stories, it'll get so far and then see if you want to carry on with the story. What I've been doing is just seeing like what the opening part of the story is and how it intermeshes, sets the stage, if you like, for the story. So let's just see what's going on here. So here we go. Write a conversation between two contemporaneous philosophers. Let's see who it picks. Oh, analytical and continental philosophy. Oh, here we go. Is it going to actually... So what it had done in the previously is it had actually laid it out like a play, which it isn't doing here. Oh, here we go. So this is good. It's actually explaining. So it didn't do this previously. So it's actually explaining some of the history behind the two different things. Okay, so we've got Daniel Dennett and Zizek here, and they're talking about the subjective experience of consciousness. What I've done as well is while it's making this story up, I've created a little spreadsheet now where I've got, the sort of starting questions I want to try going forward, the mode that I put it in, and I'm going to paste in the answers. Okay, so yeah, here's the way you can fork it. In the past, up until recently, I've always just done this, but the other day, like I said, I just kept clicking this, and this is what I'm going to do in this episode, just to see what comes up. But before I do that, I will just go up here for this one. I won't do it for all of these, I'll do it after the video. But I'm just going to paste that one into my answers. There we go. Oh, and the other thing is, if you do that again with a lot of these, you get sources because of this preamble. Sometimes you don't always get sources. It really depends, I think, on whether there's references up here. But yeah, this is interesting. So, and also the wording I used the previous time was slightly different. I think I asked it specifically to sort of write a story about a conversation. So maybe that's what's different. But anyway, let's see who else it comes up. The other thing it did, which was pretty cool, is that when I did it previously, it sort of dreamt up how these two might be meeting. And it mentioned like these historically contemporaneous third parties who'd arranged the conversation, which I thought was pretty funny. And the good one with when I did it before is it bounced all over the place. Often with these, see what I do is in the evening while I'm hanging out, chilling out, I will just think these up, and that's why they don't get recorded. Oh, Judith Butler and Peter Singer. Wow, okay. This is actually really good the way it's doing this now. Where the way I've got this phrased, it's providing a little bit of background to the two, so that's nice. It's really having to think about this. So this one they're talking about utilitarian approach to moral issues. Okay, so yeah, what you'll notice if you carry the story on, which is what I'm not doing here, because I just want to see what comes up, you get a bit more of a sort of back and forth, where, you know, each of the, you know, the parties will ask the other about their particular domain of philosophy in this case. So it'll be interesting to see in this one. You can see it's thinking, well, thinking is the wrong word. Must stop doing that. Okay, so it stopped there. In this one, I think I will do this one and just see whether it does reach that point where it flips. I don't know if it will. Oh, here we go. Argument time. I think you're being cynical and pessimistic. Well, this has fascinated me doing this. It's imagine you can create this sort of virtual bubble where you have two people who may have never met, never sat down for a sort of philosophical or any other sort of conversation, and are having this imaginary conversation. Okay, so I think I'll stop it there because I just want to see who it picks next, because that's what this episode was going to be about. See the different contemporaneous philosophers that we can come up with. Oh, Chalmers and Nagel. So, two mind-body problem people. Oh yeah, and what it's like to be a bat. Nagel, that's famous. Yeah, I think Chalmers wrote the sort of de facto standard book on philosophy of mind, or I'd say it's certainly the one that I did a philosophy of mind short course with Oxford University a number of years ago. It was really good actually. It's a 12-week course, and that was the course book. Yeah, I bought a copy of that. I think at the time it was about $80 Canadian. Oh, supervenience. So I was yapping away here. Let me just see. Okay, yeah, so again, nice preamble. Like I said, if you change this to write a story of a conversation, or you word it slightly differently, then you might get a different result. Let's do this again. Roll the dice. Oh, Martha Nussbaum and Alistair McIntyre. I'm familiar with Martha Nussbaum because she appeared on Brian McGee's series way back in the day about philosophy. At that point I knew her as a sort of scholar of Aristotle, I think. At some point I'll probably try this with the 3 different modes as well, just to see how, but I how it responds. But for this sort of thing, I've tended to find that putting it into the creative mode is better, or seems more appropriate. Yeah, I rather miss the bit, like I say, the preamble when I did it previously, because I framed it more as a story, is it did also, like I say, set up the scenario for how they managed to meet. But from the point of providing a nice preamble for the conversation, this is, I think I prefer this actually. It gives lots of nice references, which I think when I did it previously it didn't necessarily do. Oh, pragmatism and democracy. Yeah, so it looks like if you do keep asking it to expand, carry on with the story, you're going to get more of a back and fro between one philosopher asking the other about their particular area of expertise and vice versa. But this is always interesting. I've seen it do this before. Like have these multiple questions that they're asking each other. I think I didn't notice this now. We're up to 20 now. So this was 15 until yesterday. So I'd be interested in if this is just on I don't think it is. I think this must be a global thing. So yeah, if anybody else uses Bing Chat specifically, let me know what the current, what you're seeing as the current threshold, if you like, of how many individual bubbles, whatever you want to call these. I'm just trying to think of the correct terminology here. I'm failing dismally within a particular topic area. Chomsky and Foucault. Oh, so they're looking at the. I don't think that there is. Hold it. So is that double negative? I don't think that there is no such thing as a universal property of human language. I think that there is a minimal property of human language that is based on some basic facts about human biology and cognition. Okay. Let's go up to 10. That would be a nice number. See what else we get. In fact, it's quite good that it's a little bit slower than usual. Oh, Martha's put an appearance back in again here with Amartya Sen. I was hoping it might go a little bit back further, and I suppose what I could do is, you could write a conversation between two 8th century philosophers, that sort of thing. So yeah, you could obviously be a bit more focused about the time period instead of letting, the chat, if you like, decide on that. I mean, the only thing I was hoping its interpretation of the word contemporaneous would be that philosophers who are contemporaneous to each other, but of course what it might be doing is contemporaneous to this time period as well. And I'm trying to remember the exact term that I used before, because that's what impossibly is doing here. So not only contemporaneous between the philosophers, but contemporaneous to the current era. So I'm just going to tweak this slightly, actually. I'm going to put from the same time period, because I did want to get one where it bounces back a little bit, because they're always fun to see, comparing to having a conversation between two philosophers from antiquity to philosophers who lived in the same time period. The other thing I want to understand a little bit more is this whole area of prompt engineering, because this is pertinent to a lot of this. It's something I want to read around. The trouble at the moment, I'm spending a lot of time reading around large language models. I've just started working my way through I think it's the Stanford course. I can't remember the code for it, but it's available through GitHub. But I think after I work my way through that, it's about a 12 to 14 week course. There we go. This is better. Yeah. So that was my problem, is the use of the word contemporaneous. So we've got Descartes and Thomas Hobbes. And I think what I'll do, just to speed things up a bit, because I'm not going to particularly capture these, I'm going to just see what happens if I say stop. And yes, because I've never tried that before. So if you do stop, it doesn't prompt you for anything. Assuming when you do that, you still continue within the same conversation. Immanuel Kant and David Hume. I'm going to stop it again because this is a good opportunity to play around with the prompt a little bit. I said I was going to stop at 10, but I've changed my mind. So write a story about, let's just see how that might affect this. should have put about a conversation there, but I don't think it cares. Oh, here we go. So so you can see, if you say write a story about a conversation rather than write a conversation, you still get the conversation bit, but with the story you get more of a preamble about how the conversation is set up. If you don't say write a story, then the preamble is some background material, like a summary of what their positions are. So that's pretty interesting. So in this one, it's a dark and stormy night. Oh, cold and rainy night, sorry. Oh, meeting over some wine and cheese. A meeting by chance. You can see it slightly refined this. So let me just see what it does if I click on that. Even though in my original one it was write a story. So we'll see whether it keeps within that same sort of creative framework. Yeah, so even though I haven't explicitly restated that, and it looks like the wording on the previous one where it didn't do this preamble, it assumes that. Oh, a sunny and pleasant day in Athens. Wow, there we go. I can't even say that. Aristippus, is that? I don't know anything about Aristippus. Walking through the streets, engaging in dialogue. Oh, this one's wine and food. Seems to be a common denominator here of wine. Yeah, it's interesting here that there's this framework in some of these. I think we saw a similar structure in the previous one. It's going, you have this, but you also have this. So what I'm assuming is, if I wanted to go back to writing more of a conversation where it had the technical preamble, then I'd have to click on new topic and then just restate this in a new topic to stop it defaulting to a possible story. Machiavelli and Pico della Mirandola. I think after this I will stop here, but I'm going to ask it a question about what is the current daily threshold for chat being. Okay, let me just see if it'll let me do that. Actually, let's just do new topic. Precise. What is the daily usage limitation for Bing Chat. Just do that as well, just in case. Oh, imitation. Whoops. I meant daily use. It's funny. The daily use emanation. Funny. Imitation. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. When did that change? So it's unlimited now, are they saying? Because it used to be what? That's not exactly true. Well, yeah, because up till yesterday. No, when did I get it? It's funny that, because the when I got it, it happened as a result of me asking some awkward questions. Well, not so much awkward questions, but questions it was clearly having trouble negotiating. And it said I'd exceeded my 24-hour usage. So I can ask as many questions as I like in a 24-hour period. Oh dear me. So I can. Okay, good to know. Let's be polite, thank you. So there's definitely a ton of other topics I want to start exploring at some point, and I've probably said this already, I'm definitely going to give it a go at helping me build some sort of tribal deck, suggestions for that, Magic the Gathering deck, and there was something else that sprung to mind actually. What I'm doing is I've started to create like a little note on my iPad as I think up things that I want to ask in these sessions. I'll just record them, and as I pointed out, I've started up a spreadsheet just so I can keep a tab on the sort of things I've asked it, and then I'll have some answers in there as well that I'll record, just to give me an idea of roughly what it was saying. I don't think I'm going to put everything in there. If I do get an interesting session one time, I will save the whole thing into a separate document. But for the purposes of that, just making sure I don't keep reinventing the wheel or repeating my questioning multiple times. Anyway, thanks once again for watching. Hopefully this was an informative video, and I will catch you in the next one.